I'm Theresa Lawler, and I'm going to be talking about how handwritten assignments are more effective than online assignments. First, I'm going to be talking about how writing improves memory. According to a recent study in an issue of the journal Psychological Science, using pen and paper instead of laptops to take notes boosts your memory and the ability to retain and understand concepts. Pam Euler of Princeton and Daniel Oppenheimer, two researchers at the University of California, Los Angeles, tested the effects of handwriting or typing notes had on students' learning abilities in two different experiments. In the first one, a group of college students listened to the same lectures and either used handwritten or online notes to jot down important information. Then the participants were tested on the material covered half an hour after the lecture. The finding shows that both the groups memorized the same number of facts from the lectures, but the laptop users performed far worse when they were tested on the ideas. In the second experiment, these students would be given a week to review for the exam, and even then, the participants were tested on simple facts, concepts, inferences, and applications of the material. And even after a week of review, those who used handwritten notes still performed far better than those who took notes on the laptop. Secondly, at the university scholar Herbert Wahlberg found that homework graded or commented on improves student learning, while homework without any feedback had only a small effect on student learning. Standardized online homework is typically graded immediately, sometimes informs students where they went wrong and allows retries. However, instructors may not be aware of any learning difficulties among individual students, and they are not personally grading the homework, which may cause for a learning barrier between the instructor and the student. So if the instructor is unable to see exactly how the student works through their problems and stuff, they can't really identify exactly what the student needs help on. Thirdly, the lazy habits can come easily into play when assignments are online. This includes technological confusion, as websites may be hard to figure out and navigate through. There's a bunch of different confusing information all over the internet that students sometimes can't really figure out and have no real resource on how to figure out how to use the website. And simple problems like the Wi-Fi may go down or the website itself may go down, which could cause for frustration and the inability to do some work. And because online homework is graded immediately and online, there may be some answer ambiguity because students become lazy and just do kind of process of elimination or just guessing and stuff, or BSing the assignment until the computer says it's right. And that doesn't really help the student learn, it just helps the student get better at guessing and not learn the actual material. To conclude, handwritten assignments benefit a student in many different ways, including learning benefits and their relations with their professor.
All right, the proposition that says something's better than something else sounds like it's going to be a value claim, but the way you develop the supporting points, I think there is a factual issue that it has it's more effective for students, it leads to greater learning. That probably would be the better way to express this as a claim. There's no preview of what the supporting structure is going to be, so that's a little bit problematic. Your first claim, supporting claim, you dive into right away, and you've got a piece of information that you use, and you basically try to rely on the evidence to explain what the argument here is. Now, it's pretty good evidence, the study from UCLA that talks about the two different conditions under which the students were tested and what the results were. The conclusion, though, is very generic. There's no explanation about how much more significant the people who did the handwriting, how much better they did, if it was an average across the board, if there was any variation. It's a little bit unclear in regard to that. We just get kind of the general conclusion of the researchers on that particular point. The second point isn't even labeled as a claim, it's labeled as the evidence. You know, number 2, Wahlberg says, so in essence, basically the whole second claim is just this piece of evidence that this one person has provided. And there's an explanation about what's going on there. It sounds like it's online material, not just using a computer to take notes, but operating, for example, in an online environment, maybe take an online class, doing web-based learning. I think that there's a better argument to be made here that suggests web-based learning is less effective than face-to-face learning, and that's really what this argument is making here. The citation of it as the evidence, I think, is a little bit problematic. And then the third point talks about lazy habits. There's not really any proof on this. They're all kind of hypothetical examples. I'm sure that most people can think of an illustration where a website was down when they went to use it, or they didn't have access to Wi-Fi, which made it a little problematic. But that seems to be less about the whether or not the technology works in teaching people something, and more to do with the inconvenience of a particular situation or circumstance. Hey, sometimes people get to class and they don't have a pen either. That doesn't mean that that doesn't work. It's just one of those things where I think you're kind of making some generic arguments here that need to be developed a little bit more. I do think that you try to present it pretty effectively. You look at us, you explain ideas and concepts pretty well, but it's only 3 minutes, and so there's a lot of room for additional material that would support your position. Thank you.